Hot topic in Washington, healthcare. President Obama sending a letter to congressional leaders today urging full steam ahead with healthcare reform. Also in it, 4 Republicans from last week's healthcare summit. Utah Senator Orrin Hatch on the offensive today, writing an op-ed saying it would be an assault on democracy if Democrats pushed through their healthcare plans using reconciliation. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah joins us now. Also a member of the Senate Finance and Health Committees, which wrote both of the Senate's health care bills. Senator, thank you very much for being with us.
Well, nice to be with you.
You have also said in the recent past that if the Democrats use reconciliation, it would lead to a permanent state of war between the parties.
Well, there's no question it would be a very big abuse of power, abuse of the rule, because, the rule was put into place to help us to arrive at balanced budgets, either by increasing taxes or lowering taxes. And it has never been used for major social programs like this, or the few times where you might say that it was, they were huge bipartisan votes. So it really, that would go through the Senate very easily. So this would be a real abuse of the rule, and frankly, it would cause, I think, a lot of angst and consternation to every senator, certainly every Republican senator.
So the fact that you voted for reconciliation on the 2001 tax cuts, 2003 tax cuts, 2005 Deficit Reduction Act, 2000, I don't know when that was, an extension of the reduced tax rates on capital gains, because they were about taxes, that wasn't an assault on democracy.
Well, the taxes were part of the budget rule. There's no question about it. I don't think that was a real problem. Plus, every one of those cases, I believe every one of them passed by a huge bipartisan vote, and that's why it was able to go through. It is always to take the welfare reform bill. That was a social program, but it passed by 78 votes, a lot of Democrats and Republicans. Take the CHIP program, which was my bill, it was a Hatch-Kennedy bill. That passed through with 85 votes. In other words, a huge bipartisan majority. If they succeed in using the reconciliation rule to pass their version of health care, this huge monstrosity, it's going to cost $2.5 trillion on top of the already $2.4 trillion we're already spending.
Yeah.
That would be an abuse of this rule, and it would be, and look, they got 59 votes. Why can't they pass something?
You do know that they won the last election.
Yeah, I know that, and frankly...
And so when you're a loser, it's supposed to taste bad.
Well, I don't mind that. I've been there before. I've been on both the majority and the minority, and I understand both, and there are important roles with each of them. But let me just say this to you. Just because you're in the majority doesn't mean you wreck the country with the legislation that really is going to cost trillions of dollars, cause premiums to go up, take $500 billion out of Medicare at a time when Medicare is $38 trillion in unfunded liability, increase taxes by $500 billion, and do very little for health care other than to bring it here to Washington so that these Washington bureaucrats are between you and your doctor.
Well, there's always a bureaucrat between you and your doctor,
No,
Senator.
there isn't. No, there isn't.
Please. There are insurance company bureaucrats between you and your doctor.
Okay, they're not political bureaucrats, or they're not part of the government. They're not part of the federal government. Look, I think that if we allowed the states, in accordance with their own demographics, to resolve these problems, Utah's not New Jersey, New Jersey's not Utah, but if we allow the states to do this, we'd have a system that would really work much better. That's what Republicans would like to see. The Democrats want this almighty federal government, which doesn't do anything very well except national security, and maybe a couple of other things. They want them to come between you and your doctor. And you'll have bureaucrats back here in Washington don't have any understanding of the respective states telling you what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, but these government bureaucrats at least would not be motivated by making a profit by denying you coverage.
Well, now let's go into that too. Look, the average insurance company makes about 8% profit. That's not outrageous in anybody's viewpoint. On the other hand, do we need insurance reform? Of course we do. And the states do a pretty good job of getting that reform. But in every case where it's tough to get through and not have it all muddled, it's the federal government coming in and wrecking it and mixing things up and making it much more difficult for the system to work. Look, I don't think anybody denies that. The American people are against this bill. I'll tell you this, if the Democrats succeed in passing this dog of a bill, they're going to pay a price for it. They're going to be very sorry in the future because the American people aren't going to put up with it.
Well, sometimes that's called leadership.
Well, I
but
don't-
let me just
false
return, because
leadership.
they're already telling me we're out of time. I do want to
Okay.
return to this assault on democracy, and you point out the Democrats have 59 votes in the Senate.
Yep.
Isn't obstruction by a 41-vote minority an assault on democracy?
I would fight to my death for that filibuster rule, because I've been in the majority, I've been in the minority. It's a protection of the rights of the minority, and it's a protection of the rights of people. And look, we're fighting for the people out there. We're not fighting for the federal government.
Well, the Democrats think they're fighting for the people too, Senator.
Well, they're fighting
you don't have
for
a monopoly on that.
Well, their attitude is the federal government can solve all problems. I admit that they're sincere Democrats, but the fact of the matter is their philosophy is this wonderful place here in Washington can solve every problem for us. All we got to do is turn over the power to them, and that's what their bill would do. And they do it with a bunch of gimmicks, like satisfying the unions by putting off the so-called Cadillac tax until 2018. By not counting the first 4 years, they take the taxes in, but they don't count the spending, and then act like it's only $1 trillion bill when we all know it's a $2.5 trillion at least, and probably a lot more than that.
There's never enough time, Senator. I wish
Okay.
we could go on, but we can't.
Me too.
I thank you very much for your time, sir.
Great.